Welcome to the Love of the Star podcast. I am Bobby Belt, Dallas Cowboys insider for 105.3 The Fan in Dallas, joined as always by Brian Broaddus, former Super Bowl winning NFL scout. He is now the co-host of the G-Bag Nation, 2 to 7 p.m., Monday through Friday. That's Central Time for you if you want to catch it on the Odyssey app. And he is also the pre- and post-game co-host on the Dallas Cowboys radio network. Brian, Happy New Year. How did you bring in 2023?
I was actually, and by the way, Happy New Year to you as well.
Thanks, sir.
I was actually watching college football tape.
Oh, you were still
yeah.
How deep are you in players now?
50 is what I've got.
Very good. And
yeah,
still a big Bijan Robinson fan?
Love Bijan Robinson. I do. I'll tell you what, so far I've seen quite a few defensive ends. I've seen quite a few corners. I've seen more than my share of running backs. When you mentioned about Bijan Robinson and stuff, I've seen some really good one technique nose tackle kind of guys. So this will be a pretty interesting draft. The quarterbacks I all saw very early, pre playoff games and stuff like that. And
Yep.
I'll tell you what, great job by those kids. Can't say enough about Alabama and Ohio State and what they were able to do in that football game, those playoff games the other day.
So if I said Brian Broaddus right now on January 2nd, 2023, when we record this, based off the players you've seen, if I made you throw a guess out, that's the Cowboys pick. Do you have a name for me? Last year, early on, you were feeling Dax Hill. You shifted, obviously, but early on, I remember you felt like Dax.
Oh no, I felt like Dax Hill was going to be that guy. I really, really did. And
so who's your guy now?
Oh man, I've got a couple of different guys in mind here.
Let's say they pick 28. Let's say they end up 28.
They're picking 28. Then I'll tell you what. I'm kind of thinking right now because I'm in that mode where I'm thinking about a cornerback, and I'm I'm going through my list. Porter's probably going to be gone. Joey Porter from Penn State is probably going to be gone. So now you're in that mode where you're looking at Cam Smith from South Carolina, who's a really good player. I think that Devon Witherspoon of Illinois is a good player. Clark Phillips,
really good.
Clark Phillips from Utah is a good player. I think they're going to have a good shot at one of these guys. I really do. I know a guy. I watched the Emmanuel Forbes from Mississippi State the other night, and I'll tell you what, man, he's 6 foot, he's 180 pounds, he looks rail thin, but he's willing to tackle, he covers, he's around the ball. I mean, the ball seems to get to him quite a bit. So my guess it'll be somebody in that. Now, the thing about Forbes, he is for 6 foot. He is a longer guy when you watch him play. So he'll fall in that mode. Phillips, Witherspoon. I'm going to say it's going to be one of those three guys, if I had to guess. Witherspoon, Phillips, or Forbes from Mississippi State. That would be my guess.
So there you go, a little early draft show preview.
Yeah.
Illinois actually got, I think, like 3 guys in that secondary that are going to end up being drafted. So they've got a good group there, and that's a year after they put Kirby Joseph in the NFL. So Illinois is starting to churn out some good secondary players.
They sure are.
So Brian, let's we haven't had a chance to talk since the Tennessee game. Obviously, there's been holidays and other things going on. So Cowboys win this one 27-13. Over the Titans. It's not always pretty. There was a quick scare when it appeared Dak Prescott had hurt his knee before the end of half. He had a couple turnovers. Tyler Biadasz, we know, was hurt. We'll dive into all of these sorts of things. But ultimately, Cowboys get the job done, and the Eagles lose on Sunday, play one of the worst games of the season, probably their worst game of the season, period. And now Dallas is alive in this. It's still an outside
imagine that.
It's still an outside shot, but you need the Giants to give you some help, and you need the Cowboys to ultimately beat the Commanders. And then if you want the 1 seed, you're also going to need Arizona to do you a favor and beat San Francisco next week. But before we get into some of that playoff discussion, Brian, What were some of your big takeaways from the Tennessee game?
Tennessee wasn't going to let you run the football. That was clear. When you tried to run the football, your sustain at the point of attack wasn't good enough. When you tried to run the football and get guys to second level, you had problems doing that. When you were able to secure down linemen and get guys up in the second level, you saw the runs like Davis had where it went for 20 some odd yards, or Zeke had a run for 6 or 7 yards. So yeah, it was not the cleanest, most well-blocked game up front. They're still having some issues, I think, with Zach Martin and Tyron Smith working together on that right side. They're trying to figure all that out. The combination blocks, the scoop blocks, the reach blocks, those are all things that they're having to go through. Martin worked with Terrence Steele. They were really, really good at doing that. And now you're starting to see they're having to kind of start over on that right side. But Tennessee, regardless of no Jeffrey Simmons, and if you don't secure blocks up front and you don't get blockers to the second level to get linebackers, I don't care who's playing across from you, you're not going to run the ball. And they struggled with that. They struggled with Biotish. They struggled with McGovern. That was not. They just could not get any type of traction or cohesiveness. What am I trying to say? Cohesion, yeah, between the linemen. There was that they lacked that cohesion that we've seen for them before. But I'll tell you, it was Tennessee wasn't going to let you run the ball, but
No.
You could throw the ball on them though. They were ripe to be thrown on, and Dak was able to do that with some good success.
I feel like when we were going to come out of this game, there wasn't going to be a whole lot we were necessarily going to be able to take from it, good or bad. You could have taken bad from it, I guess, if they lost, or if Dak did something like threw 5 interceptions and just like was not seeing defenders. Like that could have been something we could have taken from this. But either good or bad, was there anything about this game, Brian, that you felt, hey, this is at least something that we can build on or something that we can work on that's indicative of anything serious? Or do you think this was just almost essentially a preseason game and you can't make broad sweeping generalizations about it?
It was another opportunity for Damone Clark to play linebacker and get those reps and have to,
well, I thought.
Yeah, and get those reps and allow him to learn a little bit more about playing coverage and learning how to fill in the running game and where he needs to be. It was another opportunity for Wright at corner to get more work, get more reps. He needs every rep he could get over there. Him finishing with an interception like that, I think, is a nice confidence builder for him. It was good to see T.Y. Hilton incorporate more into the offense.
Yeah.
It was good to see that even though the offensive line, they lost their center, they were able to make adjustments by moving guys in different spots, and the offense didn't completely fall apart. So those are the positives that I take away from this football game.
You mentioned Tyler Biotish there. Let's touch on that really quickly. It sounds as if they've dodged a bit of a bullet. He's not going to play this week against Washington, but he had been on the sideline with a boot. In the immediate aftermath of the game, it sounded like Dak was pretty optimistic about him. Steven has sounded optimistic since. Jerry, I believe, was as well, and it sounds like we're getting some positivity there. But overall, you think we ultimately dodged a bullet with the Tyler Biotish injury, or is this something that may linger?
The report I got from my guys over there was that Biotish, it is going to be really tight to get him back for the playoffs. It's going to be tight, and he's extremely tough. The problem that you worry about when you have high ankle sprains and you're an offensive lineman is when you have to play with power and you get bull rushed. That is a difficult thing to have to deal with. That is a concern of theirs. So word I got was going to be really close and tight in order to get him back. They love his toughness. They love everything about the work ethic. They think he can come back, but just that's one that we're going to have to monitor every single day. I think it will help the Cowboys if somehow I don't know what the seeding's going to be. We'll see what happens. I'll say this. I'll say this if they're the fifth seed. There's a chance that they'll have to play on Monday Night Football against the Buccaneers on that wild card weekend. They won't make them play Saturday, Sunday. They'll make them play Monday night, 4-5 in Tampa, if Dallas stays the fifth seed. And if that's the case, then you get one more day of treatment, rehab, rest to try and get him to that football game. If, in fact, the whispers that I'm hearing are actually going to come true.
Now, when you talk about how difficult that is to play with power with the ankle, is it more of a function you think of being able to like anchor against a bull rush?
That's the problem. That's the problem. You pass set and then you're playing against Vita Vea, who just will take you straight to the quarterback, or one of those big inside defensive tackles take you straight to the quarterback. That's the issues you run into. So that's what you're up against for the next couple of weeks. It's going to be an aggressive rehab, but it's going to be close.
Now, let's operate under the assumption it's not going to go as positively as everybody says, and that there is no Tyler Biadasz. First off, let me get your thoughts. How did Jason Peters play at left tackle? How did everybody play with the shift down the line? Peters at left tackle, Tyler Smith at left guard, and Connor McGovern at center.
Yeah, it was. I think that when you look at Jason Peters playing, I think was good. I don't think there was any real issues with him. We've kind of see him come and go. I think that as long as they throw the ball, he's always going to be a much better player. The pass that they threw to Schultz in the corner of the end zone for the touchdown, outstanding edge block by Peters to kind of solidify things over there so they could get the ball out. That was fine. Tyler Smith at guard, probably not as good as he was at tackle. There was a little bit of when Tyler Smith gets in trouble, base gets narrow, he gets buckled, he gets broken down a little bit. Happened to him a couple of times there at guard. But here's a guy that had to make the shift. So now you're saying, okay, mentally he goes from understanding what the tackles are doing to now having to know what the guard's doing. So a little bit of a issue there. But he got buckled a couple of times inside against the Titans. I thought McGovern did a good job. The shotgun snaps were good. The blocking, the helping, the movement, I thought all those things were adequate as well. So wasn't a huge drop off. There was a little bit, like I say, a little bit of buckling with your left guard when he moved over.
Is there, first off, I mean, did it surprise you to see those sorts of struggles with him? Did you think the transition would be easier? And do you think it's a long-term concern, or do you think it's just, hey, he was asked to step in the middle of a game and he should with full practice?
I think that he is one of these guys, and I'm not going to say he's not football intelligent or a smart guy. I think he's a guy that needs the full week of practice just to see everything, at least through his rookie year. I think he needs to see everything and kind of rep it and work through it and then have an idea. The things that he struggled with the other day were more physical than they were mental. They were physical. When he's bad, narrow base, too high, get thrown, get buckled, get overpowered. Those are things that happen to young linemen during a game. And, until they learn all those nuances of how to play, it's asking a lot. It's asking a lot for him to go from left tackle to left guard in a football game with all that in front of him and having to deal with a guy on his nose the whole night, or once he was at their guard, as opposed to having a guy that's playing on his shoulder on the outside that he can kind of deal with.
There are a few different combinations the Cowboys could roll with here. Hopefully you have Matt Farniak back soon. Let's assume.
Okay, I know something on this now too.
Oh, okay, give it to me.
On Farniak. Farniak's window is going to be activated this week. Okay. Now, is that activation intent to play? I don't know about that. I think that the plan, from what I was told all along, was this was when he was going to be activated for the window. It just so happens now that they have some problems at center. So we'll see. He's ready to practice. We'll see how quickly they can get him ready. We've talked about ramp up periods and all that before with guys that have been out for a long time. So this might be another one of those. Well, he's not quite ready to play, and this is how we're going to do it. So, Dallas has got to put their best five out there because they got to try and find a way to win. That's the number one thing right now.
So there are a few different things you can do if you do get Farniak back. You can, if you don't like what you saw from Tyler Smith at guard and you feel more comfortable with him at tackle, you think that's a better way to win. You can keep, McGovern and Tyler Smith where they're at. Maybe you can roll a Farniak or a Brock Hoffman. You could, in theory, if you want to, flip Tyron Smith back to left tackle if you want, and roll with a Josh Ball at right tackle. Jason Peters has played some left guard. If you think that Tyler Smith's struggling with left guard, just flip them. There are a few different combinations you could go. What is if you were calling this one, how would you prefer to see it? I think if it was me, I like what I've seen from Tyler Smith growing at tackle the last few weeks. I think whatever combination it is, I kind of want to just put Tyler Smith at left tackle and figure out what combination works best at left guard and center.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. The way they finished the game the other day, it's probably not a bad look. I know there were some issues, but now with Tyler Smith I'd love to see Farniak play center, McGovern go back to guard, and then Tyler Smith go back to tackle. I'd love that. But here I'm telling you about ramp ups and are guys ready and all that. And can you get ready in 5-6 days? I don't know. I think the way they're going to play is how we saw it. They ended the Tennessee game. That's my guess.
Makes a lot of sense. You're listening to the Love of the Star podcast. The Love of the Star is an Odyssey podcast. You can find it on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Brian, I've got 5 questions for you here. Okay. We're entering the playoff season. There's a bit of a 10-day layoff here, so I was kicking around some topics this morning on radio, and I was like, let me throw these at Brian, and we can discuss some of these. So I've got 5 questions as the Cowboys prepare to enter the playoffs. These aren't the most pressing or anything else, just some stuff that I'm curious about. Number 1 for you here, Brian. Should T.Y. Hilton be playing the majority of snaps on offense? So right now, Noah Brown plays over 50% of the snaps. Michael Gallup obviously does. CeeDee Lamb. Should T.Y. Hilton be playing at least 51% of the snaps every week?
I would say yes. And I think there's a place for Noah Brown, and I think Noah Brown has played very well for you. I know people get on him about drops or whatever, this, that, and the other. I think Noah Brown's played well above what we thought he was going to be. I mean, let's be honest. We kind of all thought Noah Brown might be a casualty when we were in Oxnard. Oh, they're going to keep all these guys. What good's having Noah Brown around? Noah Brown's proved his worth. So, but to me, there's a special element about T.Y. Hilton and the way he plays. You saw it the other day. Hit the number of snaps he gets, he creates opportunities, and he creates bad situations for their opponents. So to me, I'm about putting him out there and letting him, fresh as he is, let him run routes, let him catch balls, let him make plays. He's an explosive player. We've seen that. I mean, Noah Brown, steady player. He's not the explosive player that T.Y. Hilton is. You're going to need some more explosive plays in the passing game, and I feel like the T.Y. Hilton can give you that.
T.Y. Hilton now has been targeted on 3rd or 4th down 5 times. He's got 4 conversions and a penalty. That's the kind of guy I feel like that we talked about in the Green Bay game. On that route that we feel like Gallup didn't run. That's the time where you're really going to be able to use T.Y. Hilton and trust, I think, what he's going to do out there when he's running routes. And so
Yeah.
for me, I agree with you 100%. Get T.Y. Hilton out there. He's shown he can be incredibly reliable. Dak Prescott already seems to have a ton of trust in him. And so I think that that's all good stuff that you can build on. Next question here. By the way, before I go on to the next question, I should say, as we're sitting here recording this, couple tweets coming from the beat here. Leighton Vander Esch says he's doing good per John Machota. Everything is coming back. Just taking my time, working out, staying in shape, getting ready for this playoff run. And then Michael Gelkin and Jory Epstein both note that while he is unlikely to play this weekend, it appears he is still on track to play if they open in the wild card round. So Leighton Vander Esch getting closer to coming back. That's all good news there.
Yep.
Next question here for you, Brian. What is the Cowboys' best hope for finding the pass rush again?
The back end playing better. I mean, they've got to find a way to deny some of these routes, whether it's Diggs or Wright with the safeties, linebackers. Back end's got to help them a little bit. They've also got to find a way to kind of get people behind the chains. You know, early in the year, they were drawing like a ton of penalties, drawing holding calls and motion calls and all that stuff. You get teams all of a sudden. It happened to the Eagles on Sunday. All of a sudden they give up a sack. It's 2nd and 17. They give up a legal motion penalty. It's now 2nd and 23.
Right.
And then the next thing you know, it's incomplete. Now it's 3rd and 23. That's how your pass rush is able to make hay, because teams realize that, if they get behind the chains. I mean, the last few weeks, well, I mean, even like they got more pressure last week in the Titans game than they did the Eagles game.
Sure.
But they got because the Titans weren't staying ahead of the chains. When you're 2nd and 4, 3rd and 1 all day, it's hard to rush the passer. It really, really is, because you're in a situation having to play the run and also worry about the pass. So to me, find a way to draw more flags if you can, but on the back end, you got to do a better job of kind of tightening up some of the coverage and not letting as much free access and routes as we've seen.
I know I heard you mention this. I know I talked about it on the radio too. Just the amount of secondary blitzes that Dan Quinn was trying to tap into against Tennessee. It shows that he's trying to address this, trying to generate some things. How a lot of these teams have started trying to get the ball out quicker. It feels like on Dallas,
they have.
Like with the twists and stunts and everything, not giving as much time to develop. Do you think they're playing and press enough? Like would you press the corners a little more frequently to try and buy any time, play with some physicality?
Yeah, I would try, but maybe Dan Quinn's terrified about them playing press coverage and getting run by. Is
that more a concern with your corners or your safeties, do you think?
Well, your corners, if they get run by, have we seen yet Hooker, maybe 1 or 2 snaps where Hooker's been able to cover up on the back end? We've seen balls go down the field and him arrive just a step late. They might be worried about, me personally, I think it would prevent the double moves that we've been seeing too. We've seen these coaches or the opponents throw these double moves, and a lot of the double moves have come from when the guys are playing in off coverage. So I'm not a fan of death, but I'm better fan of the quick death than I am the long death. How about that? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. You'd rather have it end.
Don't let me die slowly. Let me die quickly. If that's the case.
Slow burn. Question number 3 for you here, Brian, for us to kick around here. Can the Cowboys fix turnovers the same way they fixed penalties? The Cowboys, through the first 11 games of the season, were averaging about 7.5 penalties per game. They are now down to 3 per game over the last 5 weeks. And in fact, the highest penalty number they've had in the last 5 weeks, which was 4, was the fewest they had in any game the first 11 weeks of the season. So they've clearly been able to clean some of that up finally. Do we have the same hope for the turnovers? And which do you think is more within your control to fix, penalties or turnovers?
Well, do you need me to speak in existence that it's not going to get any better with the penalties? I've done that on several platforms. I did on DallasCowboys.com. I did have 105.3. I said, listen, guys, penalties are just going to happen. You're not going to get any better. And ever since I said that, they got better on penalties.
They have.
They have. But I do believe this with my heart. These officials, no matter how you try and work on these penalties or not get them, these officials are going to call the game regardless. You saw a team in the Commanders lose to the Giants on a penalty where a guy lined up wrong and a missed pass interference penalty. You could talk about working on penalties all you want. The penalties you could prevent are the pre-snap ones, false start, neutral zone infractions, things like that. Everything else, officials are going to call what they want to call. Okay.
Yeah.
But they've done a much better job of being in games and not being in situations where they're giving these officials a reason to call. The turnovers, I don't think that changes either. And I'll tell you why. This quarterback's willingness to try and extend plays and not give up on plays is one of his biggest detractors. He is not going to give up on a play. He's not going to throw the ball away. He's going to try and make a play. He's going to try and make a throw. If he believes that he can get the ball out, he's going to try and do that. You could talk to him all you want and tell him, hey, can't turn the ball over. Can't turn the ball over. You got to find a way to hold it there. You got to, take a sack, throw it away. I'm just gonna be real honest, Bobby. It's not in this guy's DNA.
What changed? What changed? Because he's never been a big turnover guy. This is something that's like if you look at for his career, he's a 1.8% interception percentage guy. He's 4 this year. What changed?
I think what's changed is the fact that he believes so strongly in his ability. When he came out of Mississippi State, he probably wasn't the best passer. He wasn't the best practice player. Along the way, he has developed into an NFL quarterback. Mm-hmm. And an NFL quarterback that now has so much faith in his ability that he will put himself and the ball in harm's way in order to make a play. How many times this year have we seen him 3rd and 30 launch the ball, go for it? Most guys are, captain check down, get 7 yards, get off the field.
Yeah.
No, he launches a ball down the sidelines and go get that, YOLO ball. I mean, that's what he did. How about the times he's running out of the pocket a couple weeks ago? I think it was against the Texans, running out of the pocket to his right, launches the ball down the field to Noah Brown for 51 yards.
Yeah.
Instead of maybe just throwing the ball out of bounds or throwing it underneath. It's not in this guy's DNA. It's the attraction of the big play, because he's made a lot of them in his career. He's made a lot of that throw he made to Dalton Schultz is a prettier ball you'll ever see a quarterback throw. Mm-hmm. That's I don't know in 2016 if we see Dak Prescott throw a ball like that. But in 2022 we will. 2022 will absolutely see him. So I think that's what's changed. He went from being a guy trying to learn and understand to a guy that now believes that he can make every single throw, regardless of the situation.
Question number 4 for you here. If the Cowboys end out with the wild card spot, they are likely going on the road to Tampa Bay. If they win the division,
not likely. They're going. That's where
they're going. Yeah. If they win the division, there's a good possibility this is at home against the Green Bay Packers. So, Brian, which mythical, mental hurdle would you rather try and climb over? Aaron Rodgers at AT&T Stadium or Tom Brady on the road?
Okay, now let's think about this. What we just said. You'll be playing the Packers, right? That means you have the 2 seed.
Yeah, there's a strong possibility you'll play the Packers. Okay. That's not as guaranteed as Tampa.
Okay, but that means San Francisco would have to lose to Arizona, right?
Yep, for you to get the 1.
Okay, well, how about to get the 2?
2, you're likely in there if you win the division. I believe Dallas.
That's what I'm saying. I think San Francisco, if they win and you win, San Francisco would be the 2.
No. San Francisco would be the 1, I believe. San Francisco, you need San Francisco to lose and win the division in order to get it.
So San Francisco be the 1. Okay.
Yep. And then Dallas would be the 2. You need San Francisco to lose to Arizona, and you need to win the division to get the 1 seed.
Yeah. Well,
so if you're at number 2,
what's your possibility at 3?
I don't know that the 3 is within the realm. I don't think they can win the division and finish as low as 3rd. So I think it's either 1, 2, or 5. But either way, just for the sake of this argument.
I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, fine.
Yeah, 2 and 5. Would you rather have to go against Brady or Rodgers?
I sound like Ron Rivera there, not knowing the situation.
No. It's complicated, man.
Yeah. Okay. Me personally, Dallas was 8-1 at home this year. I'm taking my chances playing at home. I know Green Bay's playing better. I think Green Bay. I think to me going to Tampa, you're still going to have to deal with those receivers in Tampa, aren't you? You're still going to have to deal with all that, they have. To me, I know that Watson's playing better for the Packers. I know the Packers are on a roll. I feel like I can move the ball better on the Packers than I can the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. It's Aaron Rodgers. It's Tom Brady. Neither one of them are really great options.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to have to play one of them, and you're going to have to beat one of them. I'll take my chances of being 8-1 at home and winning this game against Aaron Rodgers. I would take my chances doing that, knowing that I could probably move the ball against the Packers better, and I could maybe handle their receivers better.
Yeah, and I think I also feel like I'd rather take my chances against the team that I should have beaten on the road than the team that absolutely dog walked me at home.
Now
it's different.
And Tom Brady didn't play all that great.
No,
you were bad against the run, and your quarterback was awful that day.
Absolutely. Final question here before we get to the mailbag. Aside from quarterback, which is obvious, that would be the number 1 for everybody. But aside from quarterback, who do the Cowboys most need to play their best football of the year in the playoffs?
Secondary.
Which player specifically?
Nahshon Wright.
Nahshon Wright needs to play the best football he's played of the year.
Absolutely. I mean, I kind of feel like that you're going to get Van Der Esch back. You're going to get Hankins back. I think there'll be some stability in the front 7. You're going to need Nahshon Wright to play his absolute best in the playoffs. I mean, he can't be a liability. He really can't.
I think you're dead on. Nahshon Wright is who I would lean on there. Obviously, yeah, if you get Micah Parsons to play his best ball of the year, that's helpful. If you get Tyron,
he's going to play.
These are all things that help. But obviously, like Nahshon Wright, if you could turn something that's a question mark right now into a strength, I think everybody would feel.
If I asked you this question, I'm like, okay, out of Wright, Tyron Smith, and Micah Parsons, who do you think is going to play the best?
Micah Parsons.
Or who do you not have to worry about? Who would you not have to worry about playing their best?
Probably Micah. I mean, it just kind of depends. Tyron Smith is still trying to adjust to a spot on the other side that he hasn't played in a while.
There's your question. It's like you could think, well, we need Tyron Smith. I personally feel like you need Tyler Smith to play is the best he can.
Yeah, that's going to be absolutely huge for them. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
You're listening to the Love the Star podcast. The Love the Star is an Odyssey podcast. You can find it on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Brian, it is now time for the Dean Julia Love of the Star mailbag. Got a few questions here that we can run through to wrap up the segment. First question here from DA_1804. Happy New Year. Respect and appreciate your journeys. Can you divulge what is happening behind the scenes with James Washington and Jalen Tolbert? It's shocking to me how little they have played. Don't understand why they don't have special packages to get them involved.
They're not good enough. They're not good enough.
I mean, I think
they're not good enough. That's the problem. I mean, James Washington came into OTA's minicamp as a really a veteran signing. Very rarely did Bobby and I get to ever watch James Washington practice in OTAs or minicamp. And Tolbert was in that boat too. Was in that boat too. Came out of college, didn't practice that much. Okay, now they put him out there. James Washington, opening day. Bobby and I are standing along the fence. What happens? Right in front of us, James Washington breaks his foot. That's it. He's done. Okay, so now all of a sudden you got guys that have developed. They found a way to get Noah Brown going. They got T.Y. Hilton. He's making plays for you. There's no dispute of that. James Washington and Jalen Tolbert aren't good enough to see the field. Period. End of story. That's it.
No.
They started off poorly. And James Washington is an ankle. Excuse me, is a foot deal. It's a bad break. It's a bad situation for him. Tolbert, they tried to move him around. It might have messed him up. One day he has a good practice, and then 3 days he didn't practice well at all. If you're not playing well this time of year, you don't get a spot on the 48. Neither one of them deserve a spot on the 48 right now.
You think there's any long-term concern for the Cowboys about Tolbert, or do you think we overwhelmed a guy his rookie year?
Yeah. They're thinking right now is, listen, we have an evaluation of what this kid is, and could he end up a bust? Sure, absolutely, he can end up a bust. I doubt he's going to end up a bust, but I'm just saying this is one of those years where all of a sudden you're like, we expected a lot. We threw a lot at the guy. Hell, I was talking about the guy. You were talking about the guy at the draft. We were all talking about him and what we'd seen on South Alabama tape. He is not the same player that he was at South Alabama. I'm sorry. I do not see the same guy that goes and gets the football. I see a guy that's timid. I see a guy that's nervous. I see a guy that's not sure. He needs to have a great offseason. James Washington, I'm sorry, you're moving on. You're not going to be here. You were a veteran signing, and I mean, how many through the years of veteran signings have we seen from the Cowboys? The Clinton Dix, all these.
Clinton Dix, Jasper Brinkley.
How many? Just
George Iloka, whoever.
You pay your $1.5 million and you move on. That's what you do. And so that's what Will and those guys believe over there. Protect themselves. They protected themselves. They went out and got a better player. They were talking about Odell Beckham. They were talking about, once the Odell Beckham thing went by the wayside, then you go out and get T.Y. Hilton. He's paid off for you in 2 games already, So to me, if you're not good enough right now, like I say, James Washington, out of sight, out of mind. I'm not even thinking about you for 2023, but I'm not giving up on that other kid. I'm going to find a way to get him in the offseason program, put some strength on him or some weight on him. I'm going to make him stronger. I'm going to make him faster. I'm going to make him quicker. I'm going to get him more confident. And if he comes back and he's not that way in OTAs and mini camps, then by all means, just find a way to move on.
Next question here from MT Cowboy fan. Is Takk McKinley going to play this year? I know you and I both felt
Probably not.
At this point, no. Because I think we both felt like part of moving on from Basham was to get him some opportunity. It's just not come together. I mean, he's out there. I see him at practices. You see him on the field. It's just it's not come together yet to where they're putting him out here. Now I think it's kind of time's up.
Yeah, I mean, you're in a situation where with him where Armstrong's played better. Fowler was really good the other day. Fowler was the reason why you got a pass rush in the Eagles game on 4th down. They got the ball thrown away. It's just like Washington and Tolbert. Where are you going to play these guys? You got guys ahead of you that are playing better. There is no reason to take Armstrong or Fowler or Golston or any one of these guys off the field for Takk McKinley. It's a veteran to have in insurance if something happens. That's all this is.
Yeah, and he's a guy who, when they were struggling with some of the run defense stuff, I think they were thinking they might have use for him, especially with the edges struggling. With, you mentioned Basham, Fowler, Armstrong. They were struggling against the run at the time where we started having those discussions. But he's only been a practice squad elevation once, I think. Right. It was week 13, and he wasn't even active for the game. And so I think it's just, plans change. And ultimately, I don't know, maybe they sign him to a futures deal. Maybe they decide they want to keep him here for the offseason and figure things out. That could be the case. But ultimately, I don't think you're going to see Takk McKinley with the Cowboys, barring, of course, some sort of injuries that start breaking down the position. But next question here from Ryan Trammell. Is there any chance for the Cowboys defense to get back to closer to how it was playing earlier in the season for the playoffs? Is it a personnel/injury issue, a fatigue/banged up issue, scheme, tendencies issue, something else? Thanks as always. Love the podcast. Yes. Right? Like it's all of it.
Yeah.
I mean, that I think that's what you're kind of looking at. There's definitely a particular way that teams are trying to attack Dan Quinn right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
After what they've
Don't
seen.
let it pass rush.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically take away the pass rush, and then they've had tons of injuries. They had Leighton Vander Esch and Jonathan Hankins go down. That absolutely impacted their run defense. The issues they've had at corner, the banged up nature of guy like Micah Parsons who looks fatigued and a little just kind of nicked up a little bit. Not unusual.
How about Curse? Curse.
Curse has been hurt all year.
How about Hooker playing every week? I see Hooker with a thumb wrapped up.
Yeah,
my guy might be playing with like a broken thumb or a dislocated thumb or something, or it might be
that's totally speculative. Yeah.
But every week he's got his thumbs taped up. You know, so there's a lot of guys. You get Vander Esch and Hankins back, and you get development from your LSU linebacker, Clark, and you get Wright playing better or more confident. The defense has a chance to be better, but it is what it is right now. And he's having to bring pressure off the slot. He's having to bring safety pressure because teams are saying we're not going to let you rush 4. We're just not. You've got to, and now he's made teams have to think, oh, well, wait, if Bland's in the slot tight, we might get a blitz. So at least they're making him have to deal with that.
Next question here from Skewit Bean. Can you compare this team to last year's at the same point in the season relative to playoff readiness / confidence level?
Man, I tell you what, I'm getting tired, Bobby, of the comparisons of previous teams. Sure. I really am. People are talking about, well, it's been 27 years. I get it. Every team's different. Especially in this day and age where 30% of your team rolls over. Comparing teams this year to last year or to teams that played in 1992, it's to me, it's pointless.
Well, for the sake of maybe I'm projecting his question out here a little bit more than he intended to, but I guess it's just in the sense of like they're in the same record spot roughly, not necessarily compare how just basically, do you think this is a team?
This time last year you were assured a home playoff game. Now that's not the case.
I think this is a tougher football team and a more physical football team than the one last year. I think they handle physicality better.
I think they've done a much better job with the coaching on the defensive side of things.
Yeah.
I really do. I mean, I think they've developed some guys that can actually play. I know that people say, oh, Nashawn Wright, he's a below average corner, this, that. You know what? I mean, the kid, that's the kid they're having to play with right now because Kelvin Joseph wasn't good enough. That's on them. They drafted Kelvin Joseph with the thought to play. He's not playing right now. He's available, but you're probably not going to play him. I just feel like that every team, every year is a different situation. I just do. I can't draw on something that happened last year for today. I can't. I mean, I'm having trouble drawing on Dallas playing Tampa in week 1. Well, what was the difference? And what are they going to have to do? Just look at the game. The quarterback played terribly. If the quarterback plays terribly again, they're probably going to lose the game. That's the only, I just go on what I see now, what I see now. I can't go on what happened when I was with the Green Bay Packers playing the Dallas Cowboys in 1993. That 93 team is completely different from the 2022 team that's playing right now. I understand your frustration, fan base. I get it. But every team is different. Every situation in the playoffs is different. And if they go out there and lay an egg in the playoffs, now the general manager needs to look at the situation, do we have the right head coach? Do we have the right coaches? Now, there's a good possibility that this team that we're talking about right now could be without some defensive coaches next year. Dan Quinn could be gone. AD gone. Joe Witt gone. They could all be going somewhere else and being defensive coordinators and that thing. Doug Nussmeier could be gone.
Right.
That's why teams are different. I hate when people sit there and they hang on that, Oh, well, it's always been this way. It's always been. I'm sorry, but that's just the way the games have gone for you throughout history. You know, every season is different, especially when you get in the playoffs.
That does it for us here on the Love of the Star podcast. We will be back with you a couple more times this week, looking ahead to the Washington Commanders and trying to figure out if the Giants are
Major Tutty.
So bad. It's
Major
so bad.
Tutty.
Major Tutty. We'll make fun of the Commanders plenty this week and their new mascot and everything else terrible that organization does. It's amazing how they keep leveling up their terribleness. But we'll talk to you guys again later this week. Until then, have a good one.